All right. Hello, everybody. Hope all is well. Today's lesson is about members of Congress. This is the first lesson of the new Unit 5, the legislative branch. Our key objective for this lesson is to analyze the structures of the legislative branch. So the first thing I'm asking you to do on Pearson, realize, so go into Clever and open up Pearson. Get in that app and you'll see our class and the different activities and readings that I have assigned that go along with this lesson. And the first thing I'm asking you to do, they're not in order for some reason, I don't think, but watch my story, Loretta Sanchez. This video shows you this House rep and how she chose to become a House rep, and introduces several important themes and ideas that are covered in our new Unit 5, the legislative branch. And today's spread, or this week's spread almost, I guess you could say, with the new e-learning, is members of Congress, which is in your notebook on 63 to 64. And I got this little diagram here to remind you about, our belly up and belly downs on our odd pages on 63. You'll start with the do now activity on the belly up of page 63. And then we take all of our notes on the even side, that's where we put our title there of members of Congress. And then we finalize with the belly down, which are going to be submitted on EDSB now that we are remote learning. So this is the do now. You're welcome to pause this video, and it correlates. It's one of the activities that's in the Pearson. Realize in Clever as well. It's the essential question: how should government meet the needs of its people? And these four approaches are different ways we can categorize how a congressperson thinks and acts, and we give them the title of delegates, trustees, partisans, or politicos, and those are the definitions there. So my task for you is to rank the four basic approaches to representation from the one you would most like your own representatives in Congress to use to the one that you would least like them to use. And as always, I have you expand on one of these, and I want you to expand on why you chose the number one. So go ahead, you can pause this, complete that activity. Go ahead and look into Pearson and look at that video and do this activity, and then move on. So I have another video that's a good review because we've learned a little bit about the national legislature already when we talked about the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan and the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise. And this flipped video about the national legislature does that. It gives you that review about that part of history. And then it also goes over some of the key things that we have on our According to the Constitution page in our notebook about the differences in the qualifications between each house. Remember, we have a bicameral Congress where we have the Senate is one chamber, and then we have the House of Representatives is that second chamber, meaning bicameral, the two chambers. So once you watch that video, we're going to get into the actual taking of notes on our page 64. Members of Congress. And the next thing I want you to take a look at is this 3D model of the Capitol building. I think this is so cool. And there's not a way for me to submit it into this PowerPoint presentation, but it's cool. Take a look. You get to click in and look inside and give you some more information about what's happening there and some history pieces. Very interesting. So manipulate that. And then when you get to the third page is when it'll ask you this question: how do people often refer to the two chambers in the legislative branch? Gives you a little background there. You get a multiple choice. So when you get that answer right, jot it down in your notebook and then go to the next page, which then asks you to think of an example of how a system of checks and balances might work in the bicameral structure between the Senate and the House of Representatives. This question is kind of really deep because it's taking those 6 key principles of the Constitution that we've learned about previously, the checks and balances, and connects it with that term bicameral of what you've learned. You might even keep a couple blanks on this one here if you're not sure about it yet, and then wait till the end of the lesson and get that one tackled too. All right, so moving on, we've got 3 more questions to do in our notes, and the next piece you want to do is read 2 pieces. And this cool thing about being online is that you can have it read to you. One's 4 minutes long, the other one's like 3 minutes long. So let it read to you while you do these activities, and I think that's a smart thing to do. If you don't want someone reading to you, then you can read it yourself. Of course, that's just options that are there. So here are the next 3 questions that you want to answer when reading out of the textbook. And again, hit that play button, let it read to you. So number 3 is to explain the roles of members of Congress. And essentially, I want you to copy it on this chart. A chart is a powerful tool because the way this is laid out, it's showing you the importance of these different roles of members of Congress. So their key role is to be a legislator, for them to study proposals and draft legislation, frame public policies. This is them making the laws. That's what a legislator is. The second major role is to be an agent of their constituents. And it means to be people's representative on important matters. So meaning, hey, I am being here for you. You elect the House of Representatives into their position. You elect the senators into their position. They are there to represent you in making those laws. Then for number 4, here is an easy way to show the differences between a session and a term, not to get those two confused. This graph is one thing I want you to take a look at, this chart, to show how does Senate arrange different from the House. Notice that you have the Senate classes 2, 3, and 1, and the light green up at the top, and then down at the bottom you see the different House layouts. Remember, a House term is 2 years. A Senate's term is 6 years, but they each have a session, which is a time when Congress meets to talk about those laws. A session is within the 2-year term of Congress. We make a bicameral Congress. So you see how the Senate, they kind of have this overlapping of sorts because their elections are still every 2 years, but we only have 2 senators. So therefore, like this coming election in November, we don't have a senator election here in Florida. But however, sorry about the phone ringing, other states do. Now, the next 2 years, in 2022, we will have an election. That is when Marco Rubio will be up for re-election. And then in 2 years after that, in 2024, that is when good old Rick Scott will be up for re-election or whatnot, with being a senator for Florida. So this leads us down to our process with the belly down. And this is where you can go into EDSB, open up that Word document, and complete the writing activity that I have that goes along with this. Just like all of our belly downs that we've did in class. I said they're always at least worth 10 points. This one's worth 15 points. What I'm asking you to do is look back over your notes and think about all the different activities that you've done on Pearson through Clever, and apply that to a quote from a senator, JFK, before he was president. And you'll be assessed on completing these skills by writing a paragraph. And I am having you go through that classic frame of the claim, evidence, commentary. And I got that all outlined for you on that Word document. At any time, guys, send me an EDSB message or send me a remind text, and I'll get right back to you if you have any questions. And remember about my office hours, all right? I hope you guys are being safe and staying healthy, and I'll check back in with you later on.